So let's just talk a little bit about the learning objectives before we talk about what this is. So the learning objectives of today are to understand and work within the RStudio interface to run R code in what this is called an Rmarkdown notebook. We'll understand basic R syntax to use functions. So syntax is kind of a way, you can think of it as kind of the grammar of kind of talking about R. And then you can use it and use functions, and then we'll be talking about objects and kind of how to assign values. Aaron, was there anything that popped up in chat?
Just a question about saving, but.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Okay, and then we're going to start looking at a basic data structure in R that are called vectors, and we're going to start working with them. And at the end, we'll understand how R deals with missing data. So, like I said, this is what is called an RStudio notebook. So the nice thing about this is that you can kind of execute code, and it will share your output of running that code, and you can mix it with kind of explanatory text. So it is always kind of defined as this kind of output in the top, you'll see this HTML notebook. So that's how it's defined as a notebook. So the first thing I want you to do is change the author to your name. So I'm going to change it to me. And now, so let's kind of talk about kind of the different parts of a notebook. So the first thing that you can see, there is like kind of explanatory text here. And so this is really kind of inspired by a lab notebook where you can, you basically are taking notes about what you're working on, what you did, and kind of commenting about results and things like that. So the notebooks are an example of what is called literate programming. And the notion of literate programming is mixing your explanatory text, your code, and then the output of the code. So the output might be like a table, it might be like a single number, it might be a plot.
Hey, Ted.
So this is, yeah.
Sorry, I got booted, so I don't have recording permissions again, so
Okay.
want to do that?
So it says we're still recording.
Okay, as long as you've got
okay. I will give you, I'll give you recording. Make you host again. Okay, it should be okay now. Okay, so so that is kind of the notion of the notebooks. So if you need, and this is just one thing to keep in mind. So if you want some help with kind of learning what is called the RStudio interface, you can go under Help, and it's under Cheat Sheets. So this is a very useful thing to know. And then you can see the RStudio. Oh, I think it's, sorry. It's, for some reason, it's not one of the first things, but if you go into under cheat sheets, there should be one for what's called the RStudio IDE. And the IDE is short for Integrated Development Environment. And at this point, I just want to talk about what the difference is between R and RStudio. So R is kind of the computing language, and the main interface to using R is through what's called the console. So this is where, and remember, the console is where we're executing code. But the RStudio IDE is the integrated development environment is basically a tool that works with the console that helps you kind of manage your code. It kind of helps you suggest, if you forget like the name of a function, you can like kind of look up things like documentation. We'll look at that in a second. And then like it has a lot of kind of extra bits like this, for example, like this environment pane. So everything that is not the console you can think of as RStudio. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so just Aaron, just let me know if there's any questions, but I'm going to start moving on. Okay,
Alex
so
is not on that, but her RStudio keeps reloading.
oh, I'm sorry, Alex. If you try reloading the project, hopefully that will help. Was that it, Aaron? Or is there other?
I think you're good.
Okay. Oh, thank you for pointing that out, AJ. Okay, so it seems like we spent a lot of time kind of getting familiar with the basics, but it's important. So the first thing I want you to notice is, so we've got kind of the regular text, which is just kind of in white, but we have this gray box here. And so this is what is called a code block. And it is defined by these three little backticks and this basic, so these curly brackets, and you notice that there's a lowercase r here. So this is telling RStudio that this is code that is in R. And it's ended by these three backticks. So the reason you would think that you wouldn't have to kind of supply this, but the RStudio IDE actually lets you program in other languages. So for example, you could put Python in here and it would know that it's Python code. The other thing is you don't necessarily, so you can cut and paste these and you can make new code blocks. That's one way to make a new code block. You can also, under this insert part right here, you can just, and it's the first entry and it says R, and it will create a code block for you. So that's how you kind of create, there's a lot, or you can just type it in yourself. I tend to type it in, but these are just kinds of shortcuts when you're getting started, so you know kind of like how to make these. Okay, so
I was gonna say, I think you can also do like Control-Shift-I or something like that.
yeah, I can never remember the shortcuts, but let's, but yeah, thanks, Aaron. So like, if you can, like some people are really good at remembering shortcuts. So there are a set of shortcuts to kind of know how to insert and modify these different code blocks. Okay, so the last part of the code block that we're going to talk about, now we're actually going to get to execute code. Sorry, like we always have to kind of review all of these things before we can actually run and do fun things. But so if you notice right here, there's this green play button. And it's if you hover over it, it says run current chunk. So if we do this, it's going to execute the code that's in this window. So does anyone have any predictions about what this is going to output? 9? Yes? Okay, so let's try it. So that is part, and this is going to be part of kind of learning how to kind of read code and kind of at least have intuitions about how it's what it's going to do. So let's hit it. Okay, so you can see that below the gray code box, there's this different kind of window. And we call this kind of the output window. And you can see, again, it gives us the answer 9. And remember that R is always going to kind of include this, there's this little 1 bracket, but the actual output you're interested in is the 9. So just a quick thing to know is that if you have a plot and your plot is too small, you can always click on this thing. It's the third from the right. It says show a new window. So if I do that, it's just going to open up another window, and it's just probably just going to say 9. Yeah, it's not that exciting in this case, but this can be really helpful when you're kind of, if a plot is too small, you can zoom in on it